Let me tell you a story. A story of how I came across one of the most dangerous characters in Honkai Star Rail. I was doing the rounds on the Honkai Star Rail wiki when I noticed a number, and with that number was a name. So I followed this name, and little did I know that it was going to be the next name on this list. In the first video, I covered how Ron May nearly ended Honkai Star Rail by resurrecting the path of propagation. But this was merely an almost. Because in the second video, I covered Dr. Primitive, an Emanator of Erudition who doesn't know what the concept of almost is. Because all he does is go all in. And by all in, I don't mean Aventurine. Because this guy is an intergalactic criminal that seeks out populated planets to turn the inhabitants into monkeys and apes. A man known far and wide throughout the cosmos that even the Galaxy Rangers can't catch as he speed skates through space with a smirk on his face, ready to do it all again. But you have to know by now that it gets worse. Now I guess you're wondering, Nova, how could it get worse than Dr. Primitive's crimes? Well, that's because Dr. Primitive's victims are still alive. Because I have to tell you about Honkai Star Rail's Oppenheimer. Because this is the Genius Society's worst criminals revealed. Now, allow me to introduce the man with the most dangerous mind known to the universe. Genius Society member number 79 and IPC affiliate, Calderon Chadwick. This story will not only be one about the human with the single highest body count in the universe, but also one about the blatant cruelty of the IPC. Because this is a Nova Impact video. Anyway, if you want to learn about Calderon Chadwick yourself, he is an old man found in Penacony sitting on a bench rather unassumingly. The reason behind this is, well, I'll get to that later. Because before he was reduced to this state, he was a young scientist brimming with ambition and motivation to make his name known throughout the universe. And he did. He was also a highly sought after man that soon caught the attention of the IPC's technology department. So eager to employ the mind of a young genius, they sent a man by the name of Dudley to recruit him, saying that his research would shape the universe, and his work would soon be used to repel against the invading antimatter legion. And with stars in his eyes and fire in his soul, the young prodigy accepted this proposal. And this would be the worst mistake he would ever make. Because using his name and credentials, the IPC was able to recruit top minds from far and wide to assist him in his work. They were also, of course, sworn to secrecy and confined to their labs that they themselves were not allowed to know the location of. Why? Because they were working on a galactic super weapon known as the Imaginary Implosion Pulse. And they completed it. Under Chadwick's leadership and expertise, they managed to bring this apocalyptic doomsday weapon to reality. And the IPC was oh so eager to test it out. And what did they test it on? Oh, you don't want to know, but I'm gonna tell you anyway. Because after a very thorough analysis of the blast radius, they confirmed that 24 planets would be utterly destroyed by the firing of the Imaginary Implosion Pulse. That's the number that I'd referenced earlier. And they were able to confirm that 3 of the planets had Class D or above civilizations on them, which they found to be an acceptable level of collateral damage. This is not including wildlife or sentient life that simply didn't classify as a high enough class civilization to the IPC. Now let me break this down. Compared to most planets, Earth is not a big one. We are only the 5th largest planet in our solar system. And recently discovered planets outside of our solar system dwarf Earth by at least double its size. Jupiter is 11 times Earth's size. And the Earth has a population of over 8 billion people. Can you imagine the casualties of potentially 24 populated planets 3 of which are full-on civilizations. Well, Chadwick could, so he protested profusely against them firing this weapon. And you, the player, play as the poor individual tasked with pressing the big red button to fire this weapon. But you can refuse. And after you refuse 3 times, they straight up kill you. Yeah, the IPC is cruel beyond what words can express, but it gets worse. Because after forcing you to fire the weapon, Dudley says this to Chadwick.
Look, Chad, this is your problem. You always take your gifts and talents for granted, and you have no idea that there are people like me.
Yes, Dudley. Unfortunately, the IPC is rife with demons such as you who take advantage of people with actual talent. And just with the firing of this weapon, hundreds of billions of lives ended. Wrapped with guilt and now fully realizing the gravity of his mistake, Chadwick left the IPC in secret and took vital codes and information about the imaginary implosion pulse with him, intending to take it to the grave. But the IPC wasn't intending on letting him escape, because after offing everyone involved in the project, they tracked down Chadwick. And in a fit of desperation, he took a selective blocking agent to temporarily force him to forget what he stole from the project. But this is where I am rendered speechless by the utter cruelty of the IPC. Because after ruthlessly interrogating him for the rest of his life, they patiently waited for him to pass away of old age. Why? So that they could extract his memories from his dying skull. But somehow Chadwick's force of will was still able to suppress these memories. So the IPC decided to place his memories in Penacony and threaten the family into confining him there until he broke, where he has been potentially sitting there for over 200 years. They won't even let this poor man rest. But with Screwlim's help, you are able to restore his forgotten memories and remove his dream bubble from Penacony. After Screwlim threatened to go to war with Penacony, by the way. That was kind of wild. Anyway, you remove his dream bubble from Penacony, finally allowing the last of his consciousness to peacefully fade away in Herta's space station. And with the last of his strength, Chadwick tells us that the IPC will eventually be able to fill in the gaps that he left in the code. So he imparts the entirety of his memory to someone. Wanna know who? None other than the Emanator of Erudition herself, Genius Society member number 83, Madam Herta, who now has to keep this volatile information entirely to herself because the IPC has spies in her space station, and of course she pays taxes to the IPC. This concludes the story of the Oppenheimer of Honkai Star Rail, and the most dangerous man in the Genius Society. But forgive me if I misled you, because he is not the most dangerous being in the Genius Society. That spot is reserved for a robot that nearly destroyed all organic life in the entire universe. But you're gonna have to wait until next video for that one, because this is the Genius Society's worst criminals revealed. Not gonna lie, I feel sorry for poor Chadwick. He's just another victim of the IPC at the end of the day. Further proving that my hatred for them isn't unfounded and they truly are the main villains of this story. But what do you guys think? Be sure to let me know, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace, y'all.